Today we're going to look at installing and configuring an EnviroMonitor gateway, the Davis EnviroMonitor 6803 Cellular Gateway, and we're going to look at how we configure it with the software and how we then connect to a weather station and a node to the system. So we use a lot of these systems, are really useful for when we're looking at remote installations where we have no Wi-Fi or no buildings available to store a hub or anything like that. So as long as we've got a cellular connection, we can basically install them wherever we want. So we'll have a look at this in a bit more detail. I had to go and do a service and some troubleshooting a customer site the other day. And they'd had the weather station installed for 3 years, and I'd looked at the data the night before. They'd done all the installation themselves and everything, but they just had some technical issues and wanted to move the weather station. And I looked, they hadn't received any rainfall data in the 3 years since they installed it, and I just had an inkling suspicion. And when I got to site and we looked at it, I found that they'd left the cable tie still in place. So they've not actually received any rainfall in 3 years. They were mainly interested in wind speed data, but you know, it's just one of those little things that you do need to, if you are doing a self-installation, just follow the instruction. This is actually being installed on a farm, and this is part of the FETFA 118. Thank you very much. The FETFA 118 grant system that a lot of farms, agricultural customers have used over the last few years. And as part of that, they have to have a UV sensor fitted. So what I'm going to do quickly is upgrade this station to fit the UV sensor. Some people might not have a UV and a solar radiation sensor at the moment. If you've got a Vantage Pro 2, you can, if required, you can retrofit them. So all you've got to purchase is the mounting shelf, which is this bit here. So that just fits on 20 frame. And then you can fit the solar radiation sensor. This one's already got one fitted, and a UV sensor if you want. So you can have one, either, both, however it works out for you. One of the big things, obviously, one of the big selling points for having the solar radiation sensor is you've got watts per square metre being measured. So anybody that's possibly looking to have solar panels or things like that fitted in the future, and you've already got a station, well, you can run it and then you can get an idea of what output you're going to get from your solar panels. Obviously, the other big thing that it does for our amenity and agronomy customers is that having the solar radiation sensor combined with the other sensors gives you ET, so you evapotranspiration, which is obviously one of the key bits of data you want to be looking at when it comes to irrigation and monitoring what moisture you've got going in out of the soil. So for most people, I'd recommend, if you're fitting one of these, solar rad or UV, they are a little bit fiddly to fit. So I'd normally recommend fitting it on a table or fitting it on a tray or something like that. So if you do drop any of the springs, they're easy to find. Sometimes you'll go to site and you don't actually know whether there is another weather station in the vicinity. So all the weather stations come with the certainly the Vantage Pro 2s, with our dip switches on here and the extra transmitter kits as well. So obviously we've got 8 wireless channels to play with, same with the Vantage View as well. But you can get issues if there is another weather station in the vicinity that's transmitting on the same channel. So what I like to do is to change the channel on all the kit that I configure, just in case there is another one in the vicinity that's transmitting on channel 1. So I normally go to channel 2 by default. And again, if you're installing one at home, for all you know, a neighbour within that distance, and sometimes you can get extra distance on that transmission as well, is transmitting on the same channel. So I just like to just put it onto channel 2 if I'm not sure about the location. Just one of those things so we don't get any interference. So we'll change that in a minute. What I want to do is change this to channel 2. So that would be in the manual, which all the different dip switches are. Obviously remember that number 4 is the test dip switch, but I'm going to put that onto channel 2. So when we configure the weather station, we'll know that that's already set in place. Put the lid back on, cover. What we'll do now is we will configure the software, the WeatherLink account that we're going to use with the WeatherLink Live in advance. Now you can do that on your phone, or you can do it on a PC to start with by logging into weatherlink.com. I always used to just like to do it into weatherlink.com, it's just a habit I've got. So we'll walk through those steps of creating an account, and then we'll configure the EnviroMonitor Gateway. So to set up a new WeatherLink account, which actually anybody can set up, you don't actually have to have a Davis device to do it. You can create your own. WeatherLink account to look at the map at any point. But we'll look at that in another video. So what we want to do is we've gone to weatherlink.com, and then I want to say that I don't have an account, so I want to sign up. There we go. So let's get rid of that old information that we don't need. So first of all, we want to put our email address in that we're going to use. So I'm going to use my weather station address. The accounts that I set up are normally set up in our company name to start with, and then once that's all up and running, we then transfer that over to the appropriate user. So then I'm going to set up a username. Should get a verification code sent through, which I'm going to check now. There we go. So let me get the verification code. I'm going to copy that code. Pop that back to that. And that has created our standard WeatherLink account, the basic account. And then the first thing I will do is I'm going to go to this, and I'm going to just change our units of measure, just like this, which is most sort of the common units that we like to use. And then we need to make sure that we have the EnviroMonitor app downloaded on our smartphone. So the EnviroMonitor Gateway will be configured using Bluetooth, and the EnviroMonitor app, and then the WeatherLink app. So either of those apps, either EnviroMonitor or WeatherLink, are available for iOS or Android smartphone operating systems. So that's the account created, and we'll get on with setting up the gateway. And we've got the solar panel there, and there's the connection for that going into the charging tray at the bottom. We've then got our 6-volt rechargeable battery. So that's kind of quite a common standard battery that you'd get on a motorcycle. And then you've basically got the comms board up here, where the SIM card is over here. So it comes pre-installed. The SIM card is pre-installed. So that's a global SIM. There's a couple of different ones available. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect the battery up, and then I'm also going to connect up the comms board. So that comes from the battery charging tray, and that plugs in onto the top left here, and you should get a little click when that goes in. And then the first thing it does, you should see some lights come on. So you get a green light to say that the battery is green, So that means that the battery's fully charged. We've then got a red cell light, or we'll have a red cell light because at the moment we haven't actually configured the system, so the cell connection is basically inactive. So until we do the Bluetooth side of things, we won't see that. The EM mesh, so that's if we've got some nodes connected, so we will connect a node up to this in a minute. And then our Bluetooth is basically saying it's waiting for a Bluetooth connection to the app via a smartphone. If it's solid, obviously you've then got a Bluetooth light, and that will automatically come on as you open the door. It switches the lights on. They're not on normally because obviously it's a power saving measure. So that's the standard setup, and we'll look at a few more options that we can do with this in a minute.